Hello and welcome to this episode of Wise Human. Today I have with me a very special guest, Kristen Alexander. We actually met in Bali, and first time I met her, she made this incredible, nourishing meal after a cacao ceremony, and man, doesn't get much better than that. And since then, that was years ago. Since then, she's become a personal chef, and she is a vitalist herbalist. She's also doing life coaching, and she has a sacred plant immersion program. Welcome to the show, Kristen. Oh, excuse me.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. It's such an honor to be here and to co-create some magic with you and connect with you again.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious, how did your whole journey with food get started? Did you grow up eating really healthy, nourishing meals from the earth, or is that something that you've grown into?
Yeah, so being born into the old paradigm system definitely involved me eating a standard American diet, which is like, here's your meat, here's some carbs, and here's a little bit of vegetables. And growing up, just like having candy, having takeout, having fast food, the whole, standard American diet is actually something that I grew up eating. And I've always had a love for cooking. It was always a thing for me. I just loved being in the kitchen. I loved creating. I really see um, creating food as there's just infinite possibilities. I see each ingredient as like the colors for a painting, and you can put it all together, blend them in different ways, and just create so many different things. So I always loved doing that growing up, and that stuck with me. And then, as I was growing up and growing into new things, my life started shifting and evolving in different ways. And, it wasn't until I was in my early 20s where I started really fully feeling, not just realizing, but feeling in my body how my body responds and reacts to certain foods and things that I put inside of it, and seeing how sometimes it didn't feel good, right? And so I started making the shifts and changes and experimenting and exploring different diets, pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian, all these things. But that wasn't really until I kind of like really hit rock bottom, where I was very unhealthy. I was suffering, full of fear, and a lot of depression, a lot of emotional imbalances. And yeah, I just got to a point where I was just like, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. Everything that I'm doing is just not serving me anymore. It's not making my life any better. It's getting worse. And I need to reset. I need to recharge. I need to find there's another way. I know that there's a better way. I don't know what it is, but I know that I can find it. And that's when I went to Bali. That's when I went to Bali. That's where we met.
So that was the
And
start of the journey.
that was,
Or
it
a turning
was,
point in the journey.
it was a turning point because I had already been pretty conscious of it, exploring different things. But that was the point where I fully allowed myself to let go of everything. And when I went to Bali, when I stepped foot on that land, I let go of everything. I immediately went vegan. I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking coffee, all pharmaceuticals, all over the counter, anything chemical. I was like, I'm done with it. It's coming out of my body. And I cold turkeyed pretty much everything. And which was the perfect place to do that, because Bali is just full of optimal health and well-being, and full of community that supports that way of living. And so it was like my soul set me up in a way that I didn't even consciously know about until I actually got there and was like, wow, this is the way I've been looking for. And ever since then, it's just been ongoing evolution of relating with food, and that's something that I realize is that we all have a relationship with food on a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual level. And my journey in Bali opened up that door of transformation for myself to go into a deeper understanding of what that means to be in relationship with food, and to dig deep into the subconscious mind of how I relate to food. And inevitably, it led me to forming a deeper relationship with the earth, and connecting closer to the earth, Mama Gaia, our true mother. And that has led me to massive, massive transformations and initiations. And, I really see my life before Bali as a past life of mine now within this lifetime. And so, I've been really grateful to go on that journey and continue journeying into the food realms. That is just so lifelong. There's so much to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you've learned a lot about different plants and herbs and how they actually are assisting us, good or bad, right? And I know you do those
Mhm.
plant immersions. What do those involve? And how did you kind of get started with that? Is that something that you sort of did for yourself first and then saw the value in it and now offer to others?
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, the my food journey, learning about food as medicine, or food is medicine, and really getting a deeper understanding and embodying that the knowledge of food is medicine, and that anything that we put in our body can be our medicine, and or can also be a poison, and it all depends on the dosage and the frequency of and also how we're taking all of that in. And so I've been a chef for, I think, over 10 years now, and that has been an evolutionary process of how I cook, and what I cook, and what my boundaries are in cooking for others, because it is medicine. And so every time I cook for people, I see that as I'm serving medicine to people. And so deepening into that practice of like, how do I show up and how do I care for this medicine that people are eating and ingesting into their bodies. And so, from there, in that practice that I have, that led me into the plants of really having the desire to go even deeper into what we ingest in our body, that can heal and transform ourself, not just the physical body, but our soul, to the soul level. And so in Bali, that door opened to me. It was around me, and it was in my field and everything, but it really wasn't until I sat in my first ayahuasca ceremony where um, it just all landed. It was a very, very powerful ceremony. And something that I'm noticing now, I'm still integrating that ceremony, is that it was as if she opened up the plant language to me. In that ceremony, I was talking to her as if I've known her for decades, like my grandmother, my best friend. We were just having conversation, and she was showing me and telling me all these things, and I was talking back and talking with her, and it felt so natural in that ceremony. And it wasn't until these sacred plant immersions evolved that I was like, oh, that's where this comes from. And from that ceremony, she sort of opened that up for me, activated the plant language within my DNA, and ever since then, it's been natural, been more of a natural way of life for me. And in that integration, it's taken me years to really let it land into my body. And so, I would say that would be the start of where these sacred plant immersions evolved from. And so ever since that first ceremony, I've been really practicing like how to communicate with plants, how to relate with them, how to be in relationship with them. Because I see everything as a relationship. We're in relationship with everything. We're in relationship with our car. We're in relationship with our neighbors, with the land we live on. Whether we consciously know it or not, we're in relationship with every single thing. And the more meaning we give to that thing, the more alive it is. And so in me relating with plants, the more I give meaning to these relationships, the more alive it becomes and the more it becomes a reality in my world. So, I started out doing dietas in the jungle, working with the medicine, much
What
in
is that?
more deep dietas. So basically, a dieta is, so there's a difference between a dieta and these sacred plant immersions. There's a really big difference. I really see these sacred plant immersions as like an intro to dietas. I've been studying the Amazonian way of dieting through through Shipibo, and it basically what you do is you isolate yourself in the jungle in a tambo for however many days or weeks or months, or some people even do it for years, and you start forming a relationship with a plant. So usually how it works is, you have ayahuasca, who is like the queen of the jungle, and there's well over 80 plus different master plants in the jungle. And she,
Ayahuasca, just for some of the listeners that might not know.
oh yeah. So yeah, ayahuasca is actually two different plants combined together in a very strong decoction. So you have ayahuasca, which is a vine, and then you have chacruna, which is a leaf. So when you merge those plants together, and you decoct them, which is basically you're boiling them down for days and days and days, it becomes a really strong tea. Basically, it's a very strong tea. And you have chacruna that has DMT in it, and then you have ayahuasca that is the MAOI. And so when you merge those two plants together, the ayahuasca enables the DMT to come through into the nervous system, and then you can have visions. Now, the ayahuasca vine also comes through as the teacher, as the grandmother. And so you have these two plant spirits merging together that creates very transcendental, transformational experiences, depending on the container that you're in, depending on how you're drinking the medicine, depending on your intention. And they're extremely, extremely, extremely intelligent plants. Ayahuasca can, she knows all of your past lives. She knows about all of your future lives. There's no secrets there. When she merges her consciousness into your consciousness, she can read every single thing that's been going on from you, your emotions, your partners, your secrets, everything. And in my own experience, what she does is really get to the soul level of what is needed in the moment to evolve on a soul level. And that can be the experience of that is extremely vast and also very personal to everyone's individual experience, because we all carry the universe inside of ourselves. We're all unique and individual in our own way. So there are many different ways that she does that she doctors us, that she works on us. Ayahuasca, I see her in all the plants as my elder, my teacher, my guide, my healer, someone that I can lean into for guidance on my purpose, my mission, my path, healing, balancing, anything really. And so I would say that's a very short version of what ayahuasca is, but it is a plant. And the three medicines is Traditionally is ayahuasca, chacruna, and of course water. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right into it. I see. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
explaining that. So in these dietes, is that how you say it?
Dietas. Mhm.
Dietas, um, you go into the jungle by yourself and you sit with a specific plant, like it could be any type of plant.
So usually, just how in my own experience, if I have the intention to diet a plant, I go into ceremony and I ask grandmother, who do I need to diet? Who am I dieting? And usually she answers, right? And so after that, there is the ayahuasquero or the vegetalisto that opens up the diet intentionally, and then you go into isolation for however long that you've agreed on or committed to, and you barely really eat anything. I actually, in my own experience, have found that sometimes fasting is very beneficial, but you pretty much just eat to sustain yourself, and that's usually plain rice, boiled potatoes, or quinoa or yuca. No salt, no nothing, just very plain. And there's no reading, you're not with your phone. It's basically a chance to release all of the distractions of the modern life and to isolate yourself with you, with the plant that you're working with, and with the jungle, with Mother Earth, with Mama Gaia. In my own experience, what she does is really get to the soul level of what is needed in the moment to evolve on a soul level, and that can be a the experience of that is extremely vast and also very personal to everyone's individual experience, because we all carry the universe inside of ourselves. We're all unique and individual in our own way. So there are many different ways that she does that she doctors us, that she works on us. Ayahuasca, I see her in all the plants as my elder, my teacher, my guide, my healer, someone that I can lean into for guidance on my purpose, my mission, my path, healing, balancing, anything really. And so, and you usually will be drinking a tea. It depends, it depends on the plant, but usually you're drinking the plant, ingesting the plant every single day. The amount always varies per person and also depending on the plant. And it is a way to form a relationship with the plant. It's a way to form an allyship with the plant, to learn from the plant, to evolve, to heal from this master plant, this very, very intelligent teacher, to receive their wisdom. And so in going into the dieta and humbling ourselves as a child of the earth, these plants have been here far, far longer than we have. They are our elders. And so every time I go into a dieta, I'm humbling myself before this plant elder and asking for, say, guidance or healing or teachings, wisdom, anything that my soul needs to know to continue living a life of vitality, clarity, and purpose for my own unique mission, for what I signed up here on Earth, and also to deconditioning all of the constructs, limiting belief systems, all the things from the old paradigm system. And so that also involves reciprocity. And so I see, limiting the food that I eat, limiting, taking out all of the distractions, maybe even fasting, releasing all of that to create a very tight container for working with this plant is an offering of its reciprocity. It's saying, hi, I'm humbly, asking for your guidance, and here's my offering, here's my sacrifice, as a way of forming a symbiotic relationship with the plant, a mutually beneficial relationship to the plant. And there's so many different offerings too. There's singing to the plants, there's offering physical things to the plant. I also see as doing our homework as an offering, because in my own experience in dietas, they give us homework, as our teachers. They're like, okay, now once you go out into this world, this is what you need to do. This is your homework before you diet another plant. And I also see as like really taking that seriously and taking accountability for what they're sharing, and doing that homework as an offering. So the dieta process goes a lot more in depth than that, but that is, yeah, I would say that that's sort of the main points of that. And I've seen people come out of their dieta and they're like literally the plant, because where the plant's consciousness is merging with our consciousness, with our body. And what happens when that happens? There's an inevitable change. There's inevitable transformation in so many different ways. There's one dieta where I was trying to heal something physically within myself for over 3 years. No antibiotics, no doctor, no nothing could help me. And I go into my dieta and I come back completely cured. And so these things happen when we give ourselves that isolated space. And also it allows us to get to know ourselves more. I mean, I think it'd be good to imagine just you, no distractions, no, holding on to things, to sit with yourself for a week or 2 weeks or 2 months or 6 months, to really sit with yourself and get to know yourself. And I really feel like that's what the plants also help us do, is to get to know ourselves. Because I think first and foremost, the most important thing that we can do is form a relationship with ourselves. Form a relationship with ourselves so that we know ourselves so well that we can go into a dieta, that we can form a relationship with the plant, and then we get to know how they work. We get to know their constituents. We get to know the qualities. We get to know their actions. We get to know their energetics, because they're going to shift the ecology of our body. And if we don't know our body, then we don't know that communication with them. We don't know how they're communicating with us. So, I really see these dietas as an embodied practice. It's not an up and out, like I'm going out of the body and I'm going into all these other realms. It's I'm going inside of myself, into the deep inner ocean, into the universe that lies within myself, to get to know everything that's here already within the intelligence of the body, this piece of earth that has been gifted to us for only a finite amount of time. And there's a lot that we can learn from that. So, I would say that is a dieta. These online sacred plant immersions is a practice, so that when we go into dieta, the sacred plant immersions, we're practicing the tool sets of how to relate with plants.
Is the dietas, are those always with like ayahuasca or hallucinogenic plants, or are they with other plants as well? I think you said there was like a lot of them.
There's over 80 different master plants, and that's just the master plants. You don't even need to diet master plants. Every single plant here on earth has an intelligence. It is alive. It has a life. It has a personality. They have qualities. They have different energies. They have a spirit. And so I really believe that we can diet almost pretty much any plant. And there's also a way to go about it. So no, it's definitely not always hallucinogenic.
Mhm.
Absolutely not. There's some plants where you literally take half a shot of the tea, and then that's it for the whole week or 2 weeks or however long that you're dieting the plant. And you're not even physically ingesting the plant, yet you're still dieting the plant. So I think it's important. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's important to let that be known and clarified, that all plants have an intelligence and they all have special potencies to them that we can learn on a deeper level and understand more, and then carry that within our body to share with our community, our family, to share with the world. Um, like yeah, there's ayahuasca. I see her, she's a very loud plant. Like after you drink her, 30 minutes later, you will know that she is in your body. You will know. Now, if you drink an ounce of nettle tea, it's a much more subtle plant. Now, that doesn't mean that nettles isn't there. In my own experience, especially with these online sacred plant immersions, it's the practice is sensitizing the body enough to be able to feel the plant, to be able to listen to the plant, to hear the plant, to feel within the body how it's shifting the ecology within the body. And through sensitizing ourselves, it can be a very transformational experience. Drinking nettles or rose for a week can be a very transformational experience, very healing experience as well. And that's something that I've been seeing from the community that's been forming in these online sacred plant immersions, is things change. There's one dieta where I was trying to heal something physically within myself for over 3 years. No antibiotics, no doctor, no nothing could help me. And I go into my dieta and I come back completely cured. And so these things happen when we give ourselves that isolated space. And also, it allows us to get to know ourselves more. And it really opens up people to that embodied experience, because when we're ingesting a plant for a week and we have these protocols and we have a tight container around it, we have the experiential learning of embodying this understanding that transformation can happen from the subtle plant to the very loud plant.
Mm-hmm. You find that with the subtle plants, it's harder to tune in if you aren't as centered or grounded, because it sounds like it's almost whispering versus shouting at you.
Right. Yeah. So that's what we practice in these immersions. We practice how we can sensitize the body to listen to the whispers, and to really build this language, build up the plant language, build our tool set of communicating with plants, which can be in so many different ways. And in these immersions, I'm just sharing my way that's been working for me. And, I also invite everyone to figure out what their way is. And maybe, through experiencing my way, a new door opens up for them. And so, that's my prayer, is that through experiencing these sacred plant immersions, it'll open up the doors, it'll activate the DNA that lies within every unique person to find their way of relating with plants. So yeah, through this sensitization, it's like going on a disciplined diet, meditating with the plant, intentionally meditating with the plant, having an altar for the spirit of the plant to live on, giving physical offerings, ingesting the plant, drinking the tea. We drink like 64 ounces of tea per day, depending on the plant we're working with, putting the body oil on, using the tincture, and just working with this plant in many different ways, to activate that language, which is through metaphor. The plants usually aren't speaking like this, although sometimes they do, but in my own experience, it's usually through metaphor, where it's like a dream. So for instance, I was I was meditating with Rose. I was meditating with Rose in nature. I was like, oh man, I really need to go. Like, I just need to go into nature. I'm just going to go meditate with Rose. Let's see what comes up. And I go to meditate and I'm like, okay, here I am. And I'm comfortable. And yeah, okay, here we go. Going into it. And then all of a sudden I start sneezing and sneezing and sneezing. And I'm just having this massive allergy attack. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so awful. Like, I'm like, I'm trying to meditate and like, oh, and now I'm getting frustrated and now I'm like, and I'm sneezing. I don't have, anyways, and then I realized like, oh my God, this is a communication with the plant. Rose has been helping me balance my allergies. She's a highly anti-inflammatory medicine. She actually works on our the upper part of our head and just really releasing inflammation. And she helps to also release heat in the head. And so an allergic reaction brings on a lot of heat. So, that I see that as a communication with her. So it's not always so black and white, but it's always left up for interpretation. And there's been so many other stories like that, where another one, for instance, is when I'm meditating with a plant and all of a sudden a song out of nowhere just like comes through. And I'm like, God, I haven't heard that song in years. But that's the communication of the plant. The plant is going into my nervous system and going into my mental body. And they're like, okay, I want to tell her this. Now, how can I communicate that? Oh, I'm going to pull this song out of her subconscious mind and I'm going to bring it up into her conscious mind. And then so that they can use those words of the song to communicate and relay information to me. So it's just it's so infinite and so vast, and it's very metaphorical. It's like a dream, and they also come into our dream world to communicate with us because they have the vastness of the subconscious mind that soaks up literally, all information to use to communicate with us. So those are a few ways of communicating and learning the plant language, which I find extremely helpful in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you find that when you're working with a specific plant, that's the plant that's communicating with you? Or do you ever find that maybe you were working with Rose and now you're working with Nettle, but Rose will come through at some point too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in my experience, when I set the intention to work with a plant, to be honest, I'm very poly with my plants. Like, I just love all plants, all the plants, and like, I'm just a little baby that just is always wanting to soak in so much information. And so I love learning about so many plants. And then there's also those times where I'm like, all right, now I want to dive really deep with this one plant. So I'm going to set my boundaries with all the other plants that I'm working with. And I'm going to create that agreement with this plant, because again, it's a relationship, it's like a human. It's like, oh yeah, I'm relating with all these people and now someone's come into my life and I want to go like much deeper in intimacy with them. And so I'm going to set my boundaries and I'm going to focus on this one person for now. It's like that with the plants. And then we make our agreements on what that means. So I will do that. And then I will, when I feel like that has full circled and we've done our work together, then I'll come out of it and I'm back at working with many different plants. But the thing is like the deeper that I form a relationship with certain plants, the more they stick around, the more they're my ally now. Like they're with me, they're living within my body. There's a way that I can call upon certain plants because they're with me and I'm feeding them. I'm feeding their spirit. I have a relationship with them. I know what they like. I know what they don't like. I know what their boundaries are. They know what my boundaries are. And it's a relationship. It's an ongoing relationship that I continue feeding with each and every one of them. And some plants are extremely compassionate, extremely forgiving, and extremely just that always showing up in the right moment, like a best friend. Like maybe sometimes you don't talk to them for a month, but all of a sudden, if you're like, oh man, like I really need to like call this person, I'll make that tea and just be like, oh man, I need you right now. It's there's many different kinds of relationships that are being formed. So I would say like in learning plant communication, learning the plant language, and learning the specific plant that you're working with and knowing their personality and knowing their qualities, it makes it a lot easier to know when they're speaking to you. Like rose versus nettles versus cat's claw versus ayahuasca, because you know them, you know their voice, you know their energy, you know their vibration, and it's a lot more clear.
Just like any
that takes
relationship.
practice. Exactly.
Really.
It takes practice. It's just like any human relationship. It takes practice, and then eventually it's just like second nature.
Like a mom hears the baby cry and they know like, oh, baby's hungry, or that's this baby. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Very interesting.
Exactly.
What are
Yeah.
3 ways that somebody who wants to become more familiarized with a specific plant and its medicine, what are like 3 first steps you would recommend?
I think the first step is getting to know yourself. We are our greatest teacher. And in my experience, the more that I've gotten to know myself, the easier it is to know others and to know the plants, because I know me and I can always it doesn't things don't like merge to the point where I kind of get lost in it, because I know myself and I can stay centered in who I am, as like sort of like a nucleus, to then branch out from there to get to know the external reality around me. So I would say, yeah, getting to know yourself is extremely important. I would say the second way is cleaning up the diet. Cleaning up the diet. So, the plants, they require space in ourself. And if there's no space for them to come deep into our being, then it's kind of like a shallow relationship, or more of like an acquaintance. When we let go and create space for them to come into ourself, to merge with our body, it's a very intimate way of relating. The more space that we give the plants, the deeper that we can go into that relationships. And I find that creating space is having a clean diet, having a cleaner diet. If our body is just full of toxins, full of chemicals, full of preservatives, full of extremely condensed foods like simple sugar, like refined sugar, refined things that are highly extracted, that energy takes up a lot of space within the body. And it's harder for the plant to get through that layer. So I've found that through cleaning up all of that in my diet, getting closer and more connected with the earth, eating earth-based medicine, which is, I see it, I see the food as like, okay, how long did it take to get from the earth to your body? So there's a difference of, going outside and pulling carrots out of the earth and eating it. That is very direct. There's nothing in between it. And then you can go to the grocery store and you can get carrot sticks, for instance. You can get packaged fried carrot sticks. Now, those carrots were, yes, they were probably pulled out of the ground, and then they were dried, and they were dehydrated, and then maybe they powdered it, and then they mixed it with all this other stuff, and they put it through a machine, and this, and next, until it finally gets to your plate, to your body. So I sort of see it as that, like, how close can I get to the earth? How close is the food to the earth? And the closer it is, in my experience, I see the cleaner it is. And the plants, they relate with that because they are earth. They are earth-based medicine. They are the earth. And so when you're mixing these earth-based foods and you're working with a plant, there's a synergy there. But then if there's a bunch of chemicals and stuff, then it's like the frequencies are kind of hard to share space with in the body. So the third way is drinking them, putting them in your body, whether that's through tincture form or an oil or a tea, or you're literally eating the leaves or the roots. Put it in your body. Put it in your body every single day. Make it a daily practice of ingesting and putting these plants on our body, inside our body, because that's where we get the experiential learning of how they work within our systems, and how they shift the ecology and the ecosystem within our body, and how we get to learn through experience the intelligence of the plant. For instance, if somebody has a pathogen, say in their gut, allopathic medicine is going to throw an antibiotic at it. And, that antibiotic is like a bomb, and it's just going to kill everything. Good bacteria, bad bacteria, all the things. And that has many side effects. Now, we can find a plant that is highly antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, all the things. And we can ingest that plant. Well, the intelligence of that plant, when it goes in your body, it knows that's good bacteria. We're going to keep the good bacteria. They're going to be like, oh, hey, what's up? How's it going? Okay, great. Glad you're doing well. Oh yeah, I heard that there's some stuff going on over here. So then they'll go to the bad bacteria. They'll go to that pathogen that's like, that's not supposed to be here. I'm going to clean that up. And their intelligence will read, how is that pathogen surviving in this environment? Maybe that pathogen loves hot, damp environments, and it's just feeding off of that, and it's building. So I would get a plant that is cooling and drying, and the intelligence of that plant will go to that area. It will cool it down. It'll dry it out so that the environment of that pathogen is now gone, and there's no choice but for that pathogen to die and to be released out of the body. And so that's the intelligence of the plants. And we don't get to fully embody that understanding until it happens to our own body. So drink the plants, drink them every day, every single day. I got mine right here.
Nice. What are you drinking today?
Rose.
So it sounds like clearing your vessel first. First, you have to know yourself, clean up your diet, and then that creates a space for when you do ingest the plant to allow it to speak to you and to share its wisdom.
Right. Yeah. And it's not like a ladder, like first do this and then do this and then do that. It's really not, it could maybe it's really depends on what resonates with the person. Maybe, just starting to drink the plants every day, it doesn't matter what you're putting in your body. If you're drinking the plants, they're still going to do something. They're still going to do something. They're still going to be there. Now, if you then go into cleaning up the diet, there will be a difference. It'll be like, whoa, I feel this plant a lot more. It's working a lot more deeper. Um, so I would say, yeah, it's not like a first, second, third, but I just say, just start there, whatever resonates with you the most, and then build, and then build, and then keep building.
Mhm. And then if you want to go real deep, you can hop onto one of your courses, your sacred plant immersions. What plants have you worked with so far in that container?
Um, yeah, so we've been on a journey with Rose for almost a year now. I have the next immersion coming up very soon in December 11th to the 18th. And we started working with her last spring. And I do these immersions 4 times a year around the equinoxes and solstices. And yeah, so, you know, it's really hard to let her go. She's oh my God, such a divine plant. And so this will be the 4th time working with her to bring in the full cycle of 1 year with her. And before that, we've worked with nettles and calendula and linden. Um, and I think this is just going to be a lifelong practice for me, and there's so many plants to work with. So I'm really looking forward to how these immersions evolve and all the new plants in the future that will be worked with, because the plants, they have a lot to say, they have a lot to share, and they're screaming at us. They're screaming at us humans to pay attention, to hear, to listen to the voice of the earth, to listen, to remember this relationship with the plants that we all innately have within our body. It's just a matter of activating it again and remembering these ways of connecting with the earth, connecting with the plants, connecting with our food, and being in right relationship with them. So they're knocking on our door. They are knocking on our door. And I got a whole lot of plants that are like, me next, me next, me next. And I'm like, I don't know, you, like all of you, like, how do I choose? It's so hard.
Years and years and years. The right one will come at the right time.
Yeah, yeah, and I give my deepest gratitude to the work that I've been doing in the jungle, with my teacher Don Loiver, and the Novelist, the retreat center and conservation center that I go to do my inner work, what I like to call my own spiritual maintenance, and through that. There's been a lot of seeds that have been planted for me to continue watering. And so, I am bridging these ways. There's the opportunity to be in these online sacred plant immersions, to immerse ourselves in our own home, and practice these ways, so that we can then take this tool set that we're cultivating and bring it down to the Amazon, bring it down to the jungle, and go a lot deeper into these practices with grandmother, with the master plants, and with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Any relationship. I feel like as any relationship deepens, all of your relationships deepen, especially when it starts with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. We are our greatest teacher. And I think what would be really helpful is to just get to know ourselves more, to get to know who we are.
Mhm. Yeah. And any tools that help are welcome. And we're ever evolving too, right? Like we learn, we pull back a layer and we see the next version of ourselves. And then and then there's something else, and then you get pulled in a different direction, and there's all this unraveling and beautiful growth that comes out of that. But yeah, yeah, we're always changing and evolving.
Always changing and evolving. And I'm a little baby. I'm a child of the earth, and I have not even touched the surface of of how we relate with the earth and how we relate to the plants. And I'm very much a student on this path, 100% a student. And I humble myself to the plants, and they give me so much. And if I can even give them a tiny little smidgen amount of what they give me, I'm just doing my best and showing up. And I think it takes a lot of humility, because it's just so massively, just so vast what we can learn, and I don't know it all. And I'm really glad to say that, because if I knew it all, then I would stop learning, I'd stop growing. And this way of working with the plants, it's lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And so I'm just here sharing what works for me, and what has transformed my life, and what has healed me, and what has supported me in getting clarity on my purpose, my path, and my mission here on earth. And it's I have infinite gratitude for how the plants have been showing up in my life, and how they continue to carry me. I don't carry them. They're carrying me through all of this. I'm just a human.
You mentioned your mission and the plants helping you to figure out what that is. What is your mission?
How close can I get to the earth? How close is the food to the earth? And the closer it is, in my experience, I see the cleaner it is. And the plants, they relate with that, because they are earth. They are earth-based medicine. They are the earth. And so when you're mixing these earth-based foods and you're working with a plant, there's a synergy there. But then if there's a bunch of chemicals and stuff, then it's like the frequencies are kind of hard to share space with in the body. Yeah, the missions, it's a lot. It's pretty big. It's pretty big. But I think a big part of it is being my most authentic self, and really just sharing my most authentic self. And the plants are helping me to get to know myself more, and they're directing me in the ways that I can get to know myself more. So sharing my most raw, vulnerable, authentic self, I think is a massive puzzle piece into my mission. I think also just being a bridge builder, being a bridge builder, and putting down the stepping stones from the old paradigm system to new earth living, so that there's solutions, really creating solutions for people to rediscover their self, rediscover their divinity, to remember the connection to our Mother Earth, and to be in right relationship, and creating these stepping stones, so that if anybody is lost, then there's these ways to find ourselves again, find our true self, find our true nature into who we are. Because if we're all trying to be one type of person, that's imbalanced in nature. Nature speaks. Balance is a sort of like a chaotic organization. Just looking at the microbiome, there's billions and billions of different bacteria in the gut. And if they were all trying to be the same type of bacteria, it would be a very imbalanced gut. And the bacteria, they have their unique way, they have their purpose, that they do this every single time and that's their way. And then the other one does their way every time, and the other one does their way every time. And then from a macrocosmic perspective, the gut functions because every single bacteria has their own way, unique way of expressing itself and being. And so I see that as part of my mission for humanity in general, to really give people that opportunity to know their self and their true nature so that they can go about life living their unique way of living and finding their purpose, because it's the puzzle piece of the macrocosmic perspective of how humans can function in a healthy way here on Earth again. And it's just absolutely necessary. It's absolutely necessary. So in doing that, there's all these different ways, and of course, one of them is sharing this plant path with everybody. So there's a lot of puzzle pieces to the mission, and I still, as I grow and evolve, there's new puzzle pieces that come. Then, I have no idea where I'm going to be 5 years from now. And I think settling into the unknown is a really important stepping stone into really understanding that this life is magical and we all kind of have no idea. And so, right, it's like, let's be honest here. And so just trusting, trusting that in listening is in really surrendering to not just the moment, but also what just lights our heart up. That's the guidance. And that's what the plants are teaching me, is like, yes, I am, they're working with me, I'm working with them. And they always go back to, and your biggest guide is your heart, and always follow your heart. And for some people that might mean the heart is being pulled to the plant path. And for some people, it might mean a different way, So following the heart, listening to the heart's guidance, and leading from the heart is absolutely essential for finding our purpose, our mission, and really embodying our unique, true nature within ourselves. It all goes back to the heart, the heart path. So I really think that the plant path is a branch from the heart path. And maybe I'll add that to the other way, is tuning in with your heart always, getting and strengthening that heart. In the plants, just like Rose, can help to strengthen the heart so that we can be more resilient in who we are and who we are not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that sometimes, when we first start to tune into that call, into our heart, into what does light us up, sometimes we can have resistance because it's not maybe the path that we originally saw, or our family had for us, or somebody else expects, or what society says is success. And so taking that, deep breath and listening to that quiet little voice and following, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary, because you can't see the end result. You don't know where it's going, but one step at a time in the path, the next couple steps maybe open up. And I've found that that's where the most amazing moments happen, when I'm able to surrender and trust and just take the next step that feels, I always make decisions on feeling. So whatever feels like the next right step, if I go there, I never regret it.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you. Yeah, releasing that fear of the unknown, because the unknown is inevitable. Again, like we might have an idea 5 years from now, but we really have no idea. Like when reality actually sets into place 5 years from now.
Mm.
And I think just really talking about that can really settle the nervous system into like, okay, like the time is now. The time is now. What am I doing with my time now? What feels right now? And how can I trust in taking that taking that next step and taking the next step and taking the next step. I when I was younger, when I first started out on this path, it felt like I was walking blind. I was just like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know, but maybe this way. And then eventually it was like I got this. I got into a deeper relationship with my own sensory experience, feeling, blinded, and then I was able to build that sensory perception. And then it started getting a little easier, listening a little easier. And I started to see a little bit more like, what is my next step? And then eventually I was like, wow, I can actually see the next step now. I'm not walking blindly. And oh, wow, now I can see 2 steps ahead. Now I can see 3 steps ahead. Okay, I'm going somewhere. And then I get to that 3rd step, and then I see 3 more steps. And so I see how it eventually gets easier, but it takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of courage, and surrendering and releasing all of the advertisements and all the talking and all the stigmatisms that is infiltrated into our lives and into the system that we're living in, and just going inside of ourselves to receive the answers. And that's what these dietas have helped me do, is when I release all of it, I can focus on what is inside of me, so that when I go back out into the world, that deep inner listening has been cultivated more and more and more, and I don't get as distracted as I used to. And I see that as being able to see more, being able to see a little that extra step into my future. And even then, there's no guarantee, because all we have is now. So,
Yeah,
you
it's good to
know,
have direction though, to have like a general way that you're going and then be open to whatever comes as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. And I love, I love sharing with people, like, what is something that you would love to do for the rest of your life for free?
Mm,
What is that thing? And then do that. Just do that and see what happens.
mhm.
Because if anyone's willing to commit to something for the rest of their life for free, then there's going to be happiness there. And then whatever comes from doing that, it just amplifies the happiness, and it amplifies it, and it amplifies the joy, because we're doing something that's true to ourselves. We're doing something that is coming from the inside out, that this is my passion. This is what I would love to do for the rest of my life. If I could do these immersions in my work for free, then man, I would, no matter what, I would still be doing it, because it feeds me, it feeds me, and it's a symbiotic relationship. So, yeah, I think it's really important to do things that feed our light, that feed our joy, and it makes the commitment easier, even amidst all the challenges, which is inevitable. All these challenges teaching us, and staying focused on the greater vision. Another thing is like, what is a vision that you have that may take a lifetime to reach? That's so big that it's going to take a lifetime or even lifetimes to get to. and commit to that big vision, and then zoom back into yourself and say, okay, here I am now. What's my next step towards that vision? So that there's a focus, like you said, there's a direction towards that greater vision. And even if we only get 10% of the way in this lifetime, we're on the path of it. We're on the path, and I think that's important to really tune in about.
Yes, 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 to following the path and getting as far as you go. There's no, like you said, no shame in not getting all the way there, but having that direction and moving towards it. And like you said as well, it brings you joy. If it brings you joy, that's going to give you the motivation to keep going, no matter what extenuating circumstances exist.
Mm-hmm.
And you clearly have found your passion and your joy. And it's so awesome for you to share with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for you creating this container for me to share. It's such an honor and a blessing to share my voice and to co-create this magical container with you. And I'm really really excited to just continue hearing all the other people that have so much to say too in your podcast.
Thank you. Yes, it's been an honor to have you. I do ask 3 questions at the end, excuse me, of every episode. If you could tell every single human in this world one thing and they would receive it, they would digest it, they would integrate it, what would that be?
One thing in this world. Wow, there's so much. Okay, let me. Radical self-love. Radical self-love and self-care. It is rebellious to practice radical self-love and self-care in this day and age. So I would say whatever our listeners can do to just bring in a little bit more self-love, a little bit more self-care into their daily life, whether that's how they talk to their self, positive self-talk, how we touch ourself, how we adorn ourself, how we clean ourself, how we care for our body, for this piece of land that we get to steward in this lifetime, to really, really go into that radical self-love and self-care. It's rebellious, it's innovative, and it's the new way. It's the new way, because when we can form a very intimate, loving, deep relationship with ourselves, we get to mirror that out into the world.
What's your current life motto or mantra?
My current life mantra is the one that comes up for me right now is one that Roman Hannes told me one time, which is, I am perfect with infinite room for improvement. And I really love that one because we're always improving, we're always growing, we're always evolving. And if we can just do our best, and whatever that looks like, is absolutely perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Beautiful. And finally, how can people connect with you?
So I have a website. It is www.thisisgayatri.com, GAIATREE.com. And I have all of my offerings on my website: sacred plant immersions, retreats, herbal consultations, my apothecary, my product line. Um, I'm a private chef as well. I cook for retreats and ceremonies, immersions. So, I also have free recipes on there that people can go into explore. And yeah, they can contact me through my website.
Excellent. And that'll be added to the show notes. Nice little clickable option there.
Okay, nice. Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Kristen. It's been very lovely, and I've learned so much about plants and the connection, and I'm excited to explore.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Nicole. I love you so much. Thank you.
Until next time, beautiful humans, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or found value in it, I invite you to leave a 5-star review, or share with a friend. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Thank you, beautiful human, so much for helping spread the word. Blessings to you. Until next time.